If you're thinking of walking your first Camino, should you avoid the Camino Frances? Why would I even suggest that? Coming right up. So why on earth would I be suggesting that you don't walk the Camino Frances? Well, let me share some thoughts. I consider the Camino Frances the kind of OG, the original gangster, you know, the very sort of original route. I'm not sure that it is. I think the Primitivo has actually got a lot more history. But certainly the Camino Frances is without doubt the most popular Camino route. And as a result, it gets fairly busy. And over the last few years, it's got particularly busy. I forget the percentage of pilgrims walking the Camino Frances, but it's a lot. I've shared on this channel before, the last time I walked a Camino, I spent only 3 days on the Camino Frances, crossing between 2 other routes. And it was busy. I mean, it was good, but it was busy. And I'm not sure I'd really want to walk the whole of the Camino Frances, say from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, with that kind of busyness. So here's a few things to think about, and then I'll share what I think you should do right at the end. A bit presumptuous of me, but I'll have a go. So some of the things to consider. So the Camino Frances is without doubt the most popular route. If you don't particularly want to walk in a very crowded period, and I'm sure there are some people who like that, but if you want to avoid the most popular time, then kind of walk out of season. Look at the times of year. Someone commented on the channel recently that they walked in October and loved the Frances. It wasn't too busy. So May and September are still the busiest months on the Camino Frances, and it's fairly busy all the way through the summer. Excuse me. So think about maybe walking at shoulder periods. I think a couple of the summer months are a little bit quieter, not as busy as May and September. Why would you want to avoid the crowds? Look, it's very hard to judge. I haven't walked it in its entirety for a few years, but certainly I do keep track of what's going with online groups and things like that, and people are saying it is getting quite busy. They're saying it's quite difficult to get accommodation, but I think that can mean they can't get the accommodation of the type that they want in exactly the place they want at exactly the budget that they want, because there's just as many people jumping on and saying it's not too bad. But if you feel that you don't want to sort of walk a busy Camino, then here's some things to consider. So time of year. The final 100 kilometres on the Camino Frances has always been busy. For those who want to walk the minimum distance for a Compostela, the majority of them walk from Sarria to Santiago, although the rules are changing. So do have a look at the Pilgrims Office website. Just look up Pilgrims Office Santiago and you'll get onto their website. Look at what the latest rules are, because they're trying to reduce that crush in the last 100 kilometres by saying that as long as you walk 100 kilometres kind of anywhere, and you walk the last bit into Santiago, but it's all a little bit vague, so do have a look on the website and make sure you understand that. Also, I suppose number 3 is consider what you want out of a Camino. I know a lot of people love that sort of crowded, almost party atmosphere. On my first one, I can remember back in 2015, you know, there was big gangs of people hanging out in bars and partying, and you know, if that's your thing, then that's great. If you want a more solitary Camino and a more reflective one, maybe it's not your thing. Maybe look at other routes, look at other times of year and that type of thing. So think about what you want your Camino to be like in terms of, you know, do you want it to be very social? Do you want a lot of time to reflect on your own? And maybe the Camino Frances isn't the right one for you. And then my last point would be, have a plan to switch. And I know this is going to sound a bit defeatist, but I would hate for you to get out there and be one of those people who kind of had a certain set of expectations, and you get out there and it's totally different, and you're stressed because you can't find a bed, and you don't like the crowds, and you know, you're in with a crowd of noisy people or whatever. I would hate for you to experience that as your first Camino if that's not what you're looking for. So I would say be prepared to swap. Now, of course, this means that you shouldn't be booking too far ahead. You probably shouldn't be booking with a tour group. If it was me, what would I be doing? If I was going to walk the Camino Frances from Saint-Jean, I always say to people, book up as far as Pamplona, because that's the busiest point. So, you know, however many stages that's going to take you. For me, that's generally Roncesvalles. I do a short day into Bicicleta, and then down to Zubiri, and then maybe on to Pamplona. So I would book those days in advance, particularly if it's a busy period. And then I'd see how it was once by the time I got to Pamplona. I might even walk a little bit further on to Estella, because it thins out a little bit after Pamplona. But if I'm finding it too overcrowded and just too busy, I'd have a plan B in my back pocket. You know, is there somewhere else that I could go and walk? I'm not saying for a minute that this is going to happen to you, but if you want the comfort of knowing that if it is too busy and if we have accommodation problems, you know, are we able to swap? Have a plan B in your back pocket. If it was the Camino Frances, where would I go? If you wanted to walk a long one, you could go up to the Norte, you could pop down to the Portuguese, you know, it's lots and lots of different options. Have a look at what suits you, but maybe just have in the back of your mind that sort of get out clause, if it's really not what you want. So having said that, I did say I would give my sort of recommendation at the end of this video. If this is your first Camino and you're thinking of walking the Camino Frances, I would say do it, because there is something quite unique, I think. I've only walked 4 different routes at the moment. There's something quite unique about the Frances. I've been on that 3 times. It does feel sort of like the original route. It does have a different energy. Would I walk it again? Personally, probably not. I think I find it just too busy. But for a first one, yeah, you know, I would really consider walking the Frances. Maybe even a bit of it, you know, see how you go. But I still reckon it's a great Camino route. Sorry, my throat's going. Now, for those of you who have already walked the Camino Frances and you can't wait to get out there and walk it again, reconsider, because you're part of the crowd. I'm part of the crowd. I've walked it 3 times. Maybe we should try different routes. Maybe we should leave the Camino Frances for the first-time pilgrims. Because I know a lot of people who just keep walking the Camino Frances. There's lots of other routes out there and they're awesome. And maybe once you've had that Camino Frances experience, it's time to experience something else. They're all very different. So there we go. The Camino Frances. Should you avoid it for a first-timer? No. I would give it a go. Maybe have a plan B in your back pocket. Thanks for watching.